Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, how are you? Hope you will be fine. Today I am going to discuss with you the insects antennae. You are familiar with term antenna or antennae. Antennae basically these are the feeler organs on the head of insects. These not perform only the sensory structure, but in some insects they also perform the chemoreceptors. There are certain chemoreceptors on the antennae. Pair of sense organs, that is how we can define in a proper way. A pair of sense organs located near the front of an insect head capsule. It must be a pair structure, not a single structure. These are commonly called the feelers. Antennae are much more than just a tactile receptors. Not only the tactile receptor, as already I told you, they are also perform the very specific, very precise function in the chemoreception, like the antennae of the silkworm moth. Here I am just focusing on the morphology of the antennae. That is here I want to discuss the types and number of antennae, their variation, the segments of antennae. There are basically three parts of antennae. Scape, there is a basal segment that articulate with the head capsule. And the second one, this is called the pedicel. This is the second enlarged segment of antennae. And the flagellum. All the remaining segments of the antennae. Look here, individual are, which is individually called annuli, are flagellomeres. This is the scape. This one, which is a round-like structure, which is articulating with the head capsule. This one and the second part, which is called the pedicel, a relatively bigger and the larger, a single segment. And the remaining are called the flagellum. Total segments are called flagellum, but individually are divided into multiple subunits, which is called the annuli or the flagellomeres. In this way, you can say that a single antennae contain more than one flagellomeres or the annuli. But scape is one and the pedicel is one. Scape articulate in the antennal socket. That is a form of the membrane and the flexible integument between the head capsule and the antennae. And the second one is the pedicel, the second segment. That segment contains a specific organ which is called the Johansson's organs. These Johansson's organs are responsible, which is an aggregation of the sensory cells, which are used to detect the sensory perception. Scape is mounted in a socket in a more or less ring-shaped sclerotized region called the torulus. That projection on which the antennae pivot is called the antennifer. I can show you in the diagram here. You can check here. This is the part of the head. This is the part of the head capsule. This is the scape, and this is the antennifer. And this is the pedicel, all are the flagellum. Here in another diagram, this is the flagellum, this is the pedicel, this is the scape, and this one is represented here. This is the antennal scleroids, here antennal socket, and this is called the antennifer and the antennal sutures. All are the structure of these are single antennae. Insect antennae vary greatly when we are considering in the length, overall size of individual segments, and the segmentation and the satitation. Satitations meaning that there is presence of particular bristles on the antennae. And other aspects, there are certain variations in the antennae. Antennae may be protuberans. Protuberans have no antennae. There's no wings, they have no eyes, and they weakly develop in some diterans and hemineptune larvae. There is no specified antennae. But some species exhibit sexual dimorphism on the antennae because their sexes can be differentiated on the presence of on the structure of the antennae. For example, in case of the male and the female mosquitoes. In the male mosquitoes, the shape of the antennae is a feathery, which is called the plumose antennae, and in case of the female, which is the pilose, that is a less feathery, but it is a relatively hairy structure. Most modification of antennae occur in the flagellum. That is the length of flagellum, number of segment of the flagellum. Modified antenna structure are closely related to the variety of the function which they have to perform. For example, plumose antennae of many moths provide the extensive surface area and large number of olfactory sensilla that covers them and respond them to chemical cues associated with the male location. There's in the male silk moth, the female particularly raise a chemical which is called the bombicol, and the receptor for that chemical is the present and the antennae of the male, so they can locate their mate. In the types of antennae, one of them is statious. These are the bristle-like. With segment, bristle-like with segment become more cylinder distally. For example, this kind of antennae present in the leafhoppers, damselflies, dragonflies. Look here, the structure of here. This is a more cylinder at the terminal. Here a larger structure gradually become more cylinder, become a less cylinder. यहाँ से look here. This is a statious example are dragonflies and the cicadas. This is the damselflies. Here are dragonflies. Is a leafhopper. All these insects contain statious type of antennae. Another type of antennae which is called the filiform antennae. These are represented like a thread-like antennae, nearly uniform size. Segments have this uniform size and usually cylindrical in shape. Example of this type of antennae, these are ground beetles, tiger beetle, assassin bugs, and the cockroach. This is the antennae which has the segment. These segments are flagellomeres. These are the uniform length and the uniform diameter from here to and the top to bottom. So this is called the another type of the antennae which is called the filiform antennae. This filiform antennae is represented the ground beetles. This is a tiger beetle, this is a cockroach, and this example, this is a cockroach is represented in the clear diagram. Here is the assassin bugs. You can check here the enlarged, magnified antennae of assassin bug. Moniliform antennae. This resembles a string of the beads, like tasbih, and segments are similar in size and more or less spherical in shape. A rosary-like structure, which is a commonly which is a circular structure, spherical structure. This is a located present in the ants. This is also present in the wrinkled bark beetles. Here you can check here. This is the bead-like structure. This is called the moniliform. It is also present in the termites. This is a wrinkled beetle. Here you can look here in a very clear and precise manner. This is a bead-like structure of the flagellum. Here's the ants. You can check here. This is also the bead-like structure in the head of the ants. Serrate, saw-like structure with more or less triangular segments, particularly those in the distal half or the 2/3 of the antennae. These are saw-like structure. It can be clearly differentiated, represented the click beetle. This is the serrate antennae. This is a saw-like structure. This is the antennae, and this is also present the click beetle. It is represented in this diagram. You know the size, shape, structure is related to this mode of life. Pectinate, comb-like antennae with most of the segment possessing the long, cylinder and lateral processes. For example, fire color beetles. In the case of fire color beetle, pectinate antennae is present. Fire color beetles, pectinate. This is the fire color antennae here is represented here. You can check here. This is antennae possessing a long cylinder lateral processes. This is a long cylinder and lateral processes. Look here. This is a fire color beetle. This is represented here. Fire color beetle. Clubbed antennae. Club-like antennae with segment increasing in thickness distally. because their lower part is not much segmented. It is a not thicker part. As we proceed gradually, the size of the flagellary of flagellomeres become increased. For example, it have the four subtypes: clavate, captivate, lamellate, flagellates. These are the R4 types. Club types and the subcategory clavate. Antennae with segments that increasing the thickness gradually. This type of antennae is a characteristic feature of the ladybirds and carrion beetles. In the diagram, it is represented here. As we go from bottom to the top, the size of the segment become gradually increases. This condition exists in the ladybird. This is represented the ladybird, which is a very common, and in the carrion beetle, it is also represented here the club type of beetle, in which the gradually increase the size and the diameter of the flagellomeres. And next one is the captivate. Antennae with terminal segments suddenly enlarging in diameter. It's not a gradual pattern, but there's first it is a uniform, but when these segments reach at the terminal parts, then is the size and of the segment become increased gradually, not gradually but suddenly increase here. An example is the saw beetles. Look here, this is a uniform segment. When these segments reach up to the top or terminal parts, the size and the diameter of these flagellomeres become increased suddenly, not in the uniform pattern. This is this example represented here. And look at, you can check here in this specimen. It is called the sap beetle. This condition represented the sap beetle. Lamellate. Antennae with terminal segments enlarging to the round or oval platelet lobes. It is a enlarged oval like plates at the terminal parts. This condition is existed in the John beetles, because these are majority diversification among the antennae is present in the most beetles. Here lamellate. This is a John beetle. Look here, this is the shape of the antennae. Flabellate. Antennae with terminal segments possessing lateral long parallel-sided sheet-like or tongue-like lobes. This condition is existed in the cedar beetles. Look here, this is the terminal part, this is the cedar beetle. In the terminal part, they are possessing the lateral long parallel-sided sheet-like or the tongue-like extensions. Here you can check here, this is the tongue-like extension here as the terminal part. This condition exists in the cedar beetles. And another type of the antennae type, geniculate. This is the elbow-shaped antennae with the first long segment and the small succeeding segment at an angle to the first one. It means it is elbow shaped like an elbow, but here these for example basal segments are very uniform, and the terminal segment become succeedingly become small and become first right angle that is at the right angle with the first segment. This condition exists in the staghorn beetles and chalcids and the honeybees. This condition existed here. This type of antennae, this is the chalcid wasp, and this is the staghorn beetle, this is the geniculate beetle, and weevils and the ants. Look here, this is the type of antennae which is this is the first is a large segment, and the other segments are gradually reduced in the size and become presented at the right angle. This is the right angle here. And all are the types. This is represented the honeybees. This is which is large segments, and this segments is a very small segments, and become a right angle to the first one. Next one, pulmose. This is a feathery antennae with most of the segment bearing wall of the long hairs. That is and each segment there is present wall type bristles, wall type hairs in the circle forms. This is the most common antennae which is present in the male mosquitoes. As already I told you, there's a gender differentiation on the basis of the types of antennae. This is the antennae, pulmose antennae. This is a male culex mosquito. Look here, this is the original diagram of it. Here is the word-like antennae. As each word there is a multiple here originated. So this is a pulmose type antennae in the male mosquitoes. Or state antennae with usually in large terminal segments, which bears a conspicuous dorsal bristles. The arista, that is a terminal segment become enlarged, and from the terminal segment there is a originator a single bristle-like structure. This is present in the horsefly and the sylphids fly. Look here, this is the horsefly, this is the sylphid fly. It is, look at the structure. This is the arista, this is the pedicel, this is a scab, and this is a terminal long segment formed here is an originator from a spine-like structure which is called the arista. This is the sylphid flies, this is the horsefly. So you can check here, it is a very clearly differentiated here. Next one, stylate antennae with terminal segments bearing an elongated terminal style-like or finger-like process. This style, because the terminal part have the finger-like style-like projections. For example, this is existed in the robber flies, horse flies, and the snip flies. These are represented here. This is the horse flies. This is, look here, this is a terminal finger-like process. Here the terminal finger-like process is at here. Here you can differentiate. You see here is a horsefly. This is a robber fly. All these insects contain this type of the antennae. And this is the snip fly. Thank you very much for your understanding. I think you can understand this lecture very easily. I have explained all the diagrams with appropriate description. I hope so it will be very helpful to understand this lecture. Thank you very much, and subscribe my channel. Thank you.